Momentum is building. Now let's see what the charts actually confirm. This is Bitcoin on Point, where I give you the only news that matters and the cleanest technical analysis to trade the best asset in the world, Bitcoin. And right now, Bitcoin isn't just moving higher. In fact, it's holding structure across multiple time frames. So what we need to take away from this is, one, we should not panic. Two, we have no structural breakdown. What actually matters now is how price behaves after the breakout. So before we go deeper into the charts, let's zoom out to our macro news because the backdrop continues to strengthen globally. Just in, Bitcoin treasury company Metaplanet just surged 15% today. Now, why does this move matter? Because markets do not reward these companies unless Bitcoin exposure is being repriced positively, balance sheet Bitcoin strategies are gaining legitimacy, and equity investors are front-running future demand. This is traditional capital chasing Bitcoin exposure, not retail speculation. Now, Japan is pushing its crypto into legacy markets. Japan's finance minister just urged to list Bitcoin and crypto on traditional stock exchanges. Trillions is coming. Now, this is huge. This isn't about launching new tokens. It's about embedding crypto into existing financial infrastructure. And if Bitcoin and crypto products become exchange listed in Japan, pension funds gain access, institutional mandates actually expand, and trillions in capital become eligible. This is how adoption scales quietly through infrastructure. Now, ETFs are evolving beyond price exposure. Update: Grayscale has amended its AVAX ETF S1 to include staking rewards, becoming the third issuer to add staking provisions in filings with the SEC. This is a very important shift. ETFs are no longer just about price tracking. They're being built to capture on-chain yield. Now, what this signals for the market is increasing regulatory comfort, more sophisticated crypto products, and deeper integration of proof-of-stake economics. This is huge for global crypto adoption. Now, when you connect all of the dots, Bitcoin treasury firms are being rewarded, major economies like Japan are pushing crypto into stock exchanges, and ETFs are evolving to include yield. This isn't speculative excess anymore. This is institutional acceleration whilst price continues to resolve structure and liquidity. Now let's bring this context back to the charts. We're going to start by analyzing Bitcoin on the monthly time frame. This is the bigger picture. Now, Bitcoin is still holding the long-term trend line, the same one that we talk about in all of our videos, the line that's been holding ever since 2023. And after every successful retest back into demand or back onto this trend line, Bitcoin reacts positively. And even if this trend line were to be lost, for example, in the not so distant future, and we did sweep below, there is still demand pockets below sitting on the previous highs from 2024 that could act as a level of protection. So as long as this trend line holds, the long-term bullish structure remains valid. Now let's look at Bitcoin versus Nasdaq, because on the weekly time frame, Bitcoin continues to move in sync with the US 100. Now, historically, when Nasdaq pushes higher, Bitcoin follows, and often with greater expansion. So we've seen a 16% dump this was in early sort of Q1, Q2 of 2025, and Bitcoin initially started to follow suit with the Nasdaq. Now, we've had a 16% dump coming into sort of Q4 2025 into Q1. Are we likely to see a 58% pump and follow suit with the Nasdaq? So if this correlation holds, another 58% move is definitely possible over time, but only after the structure confirms. We need to see Bitcoin get back above its 50 moving average, which is this black line on the charts, and currently sits at $98,000. Now let's zoom into the daily chart. When we actually look at some of the lower time frames, Bitcoin was consolidating between a level of resistance and support, and we ultimately squeezed right into an apex, building these higher highs and higher lows, and we got the confirmed breakout on the 2nd of January. This is a sign of strength. Strong markets often move first and test the levels later. This behavior suggests acceptance, not exhaustion. So whilst we're actually got this breakout, there is levels of resistance above that we do need to see Bitcoin breakthrough, and that sits at $93,000 to $94,000. If we do see the bullish momentum continue, we could ultimately start working our way back up to where the highs of this compression triangle started forming, which sits at $98,000. So far, so good on the breakout. We are simply waiting to see if we can tap through this liquidity and push higher. And again, this behavior suggests acceptance, not exhaustion. Now let's flip down to the lower time frames even further. We're going to analyze the 4-hour time frame. Now, Bitcoin over the last couple of days broke through a major level of resistance. We were sitting under $90,000 for quite some time, and this was a major supply zone on the lower time frames that Bitcoin needed to break, and we have ultimately broken through this resistance zone and now look to be pushing towards our next level of resistance, which sits at $94,000. So from here, two scenarios make sense. And the first one would be Bitcoin continuing this vertical trajectory up towards that 94K for a retest, or the second one would result in Bitcoin initially rolling back down from said levels to flip this previous level of resistance at 90K into support before the continuation into higher supply. So as long as this support holds in this key level, which is roughly about $89,000 to $90,000, structure remains bullish. Now, when it comes to the 2-hour time frame for Bitcoin, structure is nearly identical to the 4-hour. And the alignment is important because when multiple time frames agree, it gives us cleaner data on where price actually might retrace to, where risk is actually defined, and how to plan future trades. This is exactly what disciplined traders want to see. So again, there are two potential scenarios zooming in even further. One, we could continue the push up to sort of 94K, come back to hold the lows from yesterday at 92K, and then continue the expansion. However, failing that, if we do come in and lose this minor sort of green support block, then there is definitely the potential to come back into that key level at $90,000, which is the confluence we have on the 4-hour chart. So we simply wait for the structure to play out. If Bitcoin holds short-term support, fantastic. We look to push towards 93 to 94K, but failing that, we have key levels of support below. Now shifting over to Ethereum, looking at ETH here on the daily time frame, we have at last reclaimed the daily 50 EMA. And this is one of the moves that we've been tracking for several videos. So from here, the draw on liquidity is clear. This is a decision zone, not a chasing environment. But however, ETH does look to be breaking out of a major level of resistance that was on its head for quite some time. And we did have this compression trend line where we had these higher lows building for ETH at the same time, with the daily demand zone being respected, and we are now seeing that breakout. This is great for ETH and for the overall broader crypto market. Daily demand sits at $2,008 to $2,700, and we have the sell side liquidity above to actually sweep, which sits at the highs of 3.4K. Now, when it comes to ETH on the 4-hour chart, it's pretty evident that ETH has been holding a key level of structural support that it's been respecting for quite some time. And over the last sort of couple of days, ETH has broken through a previous level of resistance at $3,100 and now has the opportunity to flip this into support before continuation higher, i.e. back up to the highs that it's fallen from at 3.4K. So this tells us that buyers are absorbing the sell pressure, defending higher prices, and positioning for continuation. So when ETH does this, whilst Bitcoin holds its structure, this is where it often leads to the big leg of the market. So when we put this all together, Bitcoin's monthly trend line is intact and support is waiting below if it is lost. Bitcoin on the Nasdaq is following suit like it always does and is expecting to play catch up. On the daily time frame, we have had this compression where Bitcoin has seen a successful breakout with bullish momentum building and supply waiting above at 93 to 94K, and also the push back up to where this triangle actually started forming at the 96K area. And on the lower time frames, it's respecting the structure. When we look at ETH, ETH is reacting positively, reclaiming its 50 EMA support on the daily, signaling for bullish momentum. And on the 4-hour time frame, the respected trend lines are being held, and we're immediately sort of pushing through imminent supply at $3,100, hopefully turning it into support before the continuation of the trend. So this isn't randomness across the board. This is structure aligning with the momentum. So my final thoughts to take away from this video. This isn't the phase to rush. It's the phase to respect the structure, let the important levels confirm, and allow momentum to prove the continuation. Strong markets reward patience, guys, not prediction. Let the price do its work. Now, if you want to support the channel, the links below are there for you. You can trade on the platform we use, get fee discounts and bonuses. It's completely optional, but it really helps the channel grow. So thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next update.